Hello and welcome to Mid-Range Jimbo Show. I'm Austin.
And I'm Michael, and today we're going to be talking about our predictions for the Eastern Conference standings in the NBA. If you'd like to hear about basketball, drop a like and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. So first, we have the Atlanta Hawks. And for me, I think this is the team that is poised for the most improvement. I mean, they made some really key additions to their roster. I mean, they got Bogdan Bogdanovic, Danilo Gallinari, Rondo, and they drafted Okongwu, who as soon as next year could even be the starting center on this team. So, I mean, I really think they're poised for some improvement, and that reflects in the record that we've come up with for this team.
Yeah, we're doing this for every team. We're picking a record we think that they're going to have for next year, and this puts Atlanta right into the playoff, play-in tournament that the NBA is doing from now on, where the not 1 through 10 seed, but the 7 through 10 seed have a play-in tournament to see who makes it into the playoffs. We think they're going to be in there because you look at all these additions they did, and one guy you passed over is Chris Dunn as well,
Yeah.
who is a superb defender to have on a team, especially with Trae Young, who is not
Yeah.
not a good defender at all. You need defense around him. Chris Dunn brings it. He is a superb defender at a point guard position, and he can also guard threes. He was playing three for the Chicago Bulls a lot this past year.
Well, our record has them as the 9th seed in the East. That's obviously a big improvement because they were 14th in the East this past year.
I think they were
They're tied for the 13th.
Yeah, because it was Pistons, them, and the worst was Cleveland.
Yeah.
That was one game behind them at 19 wins.
So I'm fairly certain Atlanta was tied with the Pistons for the 13th seed in the West or in the East. But yeah, this team, I mean, not only did they add in a bunch of really good like wings, and I think Rondo's going to be a really good mentor for Trae Young. He's still going to play a little bit. I don't know how many minutes exactly, maybe somewhere around 18, probably a little less.
Yeah, he's a good guy to just have run your bench unit because that was a big problem with the Hawks when Trae Young wasn't on the court. It wasn't fun.
Oh yeah,
it wasn't a fun team to watch, and they weren't very good.
Oh yeah, and I think that is something that Danilo really helps with. It's just being a shot creator and him basically being okay with coming off the bench. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, because it came out that he was doing that, and that's really cool that he's willing to do that because he's potential sixth man of the year doing this now.
Yeah.
And also Clint Capella, he didn't play last year with Trae Young, so we haven't seen that duo in action. And you look at what Clint Capella did with James Harden, that could be that could be close to what Trae Young can do with him as well.
I think that'd be the best pick and roll in the league. Other than that, John Collins and Trae Young. I mean, that's pretty nice too.
Yeah, very true.
So next we have the Charlotte Hornets, and if you remember from my hot takes, I had them making the playoffs. Well, this record doesn't quite look like that. They would be the 10th seed, which would allow them to be in the play-in games. We're not quite too sure what their starting five would look like. We just kind of figured that these would probably be the best five, and then I feel like you could switch some guys in and out. Like you could have Bridges in there, kind of run like a bigger lineup by taking Rozier out, or maybe taking Zeller out and moving PJ Washington down to the 5 or something like that. I feel like this roster has quite a few options.
Yeah, it was a hard one to come up with to make for the both of us because it was like, who do we put where? Because you can interchange so many guys here. Like Devontae Graham, I put him as a sixth man simply because he'd be a great sixth man to have on your team. I mean, so's Terry Rozier, but I feel like Terry Rozier brings a little better defense than Devontae Graham does.
It's still not very good.
Yeah, it's still not great, but it's something to have alongside LaMelo Ball, I guess, who isn't a great defender.
Yeah. Something that I think, this will work in 2 years in the future, is I think that the Hornets need to add a good defender. I mean, that'll be probably on their wish list next year for free agency or trades or whatever, just to teach LaMelo Ball. Because if he was good at defense this year, I mean, I could easily see them moving into the top 8 seeds.
Definitely. Yeah, he just doesn't seem to care about that end of the floor. But of course, that comes with time because younger players aren't really taught much about defense. if they're really good offensively
Mhm.
to start their careers, defense always seems to come later for players like
All right.
that.
But having Charlotte as the 10th seed, I don't think is too big of a prediction. And as we move on, we'll get to Chicago. We actually have Charlotte and Chicago tied, but Charlotte would hold the tiebreaker over them. So technically, Charlotte making the playoffs, which hopefully then that makes my hot take.
Yeah, and I mean his goes
correct.
along with mine with LaMelo Ball winning Rookie of the Year as
Yeah.
well. So we'll see how that all goes.
So next we have the Miami Heat, and I think the same thing with Charlotte, even more so, is they're going to have such a flexible lineup and be able to throw out matchups for so many different teams. I mean, I think this team is going to improve off of next year or off of last year going into this season with a slightly better record, 45-27. That would put them as the 4 seed, just slightly ahead of the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah, the team is just they obviously lost like Jay Crowder, Derek
Mhm.
Jones Jr., solid pieces that they had on this championship run team. Obviously, they didn't win the championship, but making it there, and they managed to replace those guys even,
Yeah.
which
Well, I feel like Precious Achua, he'll have a solid rookie year. I
mhm.
mean, you really want like these young guys to be a part of a good team. You know, this team has all these veteran leaders, and when you look at trying to grow a young guy, get them into your own culture, and we talk
Yep.
about that all the time with the Heat.
Yep, culture for
Is
the Heat. It's one of their biggest
mhm.
attractions.
uh, Having a guy grow up in that, like as a player, that really helps their development. So we may not see it a whole lot this year. We'll see it more in the years to come with his development, but I still think they'll be better this
Oh
next
yeah,
year.
definitely. The only kind of question mark I have is having Myers Leonard as your four.
Yeah,
That's a bit iffy, but I mean, other than that, maybe Mo Harkless or someone. But
maybe. I mean, they could even experiment with like I know Duncan Robinson at times played the four with air quotes, just because I mean they just have him run around as a shooter, and I don't know. I've seen some weird things for how they place people in lineups. I don't think whether you're a 2 or a 3 really matters. They
right,
just kind of put those guys out there and they figure out defensive assignments from that.
right,
But like you could switch out Myers Leonard for like Tyler Hero and just have everybody move down a position. You could insert like Precious Chua,
yep,
Andre Iguodala, Mo Harkless. I mean,
yep.
honestly, if you wanted to, you could even put in Kelly Olynyk in there.
Yeah, it's a weird one for them with it. It's just and they run a zone sometimes as well,
Hmm.
so their defense, like who plays what position, doesn't matter that
Yeah,
much because
yeah.
they're running a zone sometimes, and they like Michael was saying they have they put guys on the floor, then pick assignments based on who's on the floor and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So it all just depends on personnel that they have and the personnel they're playing against.
But I mean, I think we're both in agreement here that year 2 of Tyler Hero and Jimmy Butler and like they're just going to improve, and I think we'll keep seeing a steady improvement unless we see some sort of big jump from one of the Heat's young players.
Yep.
So next we have the Orlando Magic, and this was kind of a tough team to decide on. And I think ultimately we both kind of agree that they're going to be worse as a team without having Jonathan Isaac.
Yep. He's going to be out the whole year, of course, and people don't understand how valuable he is for simply his defense.
Yeah.
He's a crazy talented
Mhm.
defender. And everyone always just said, if he develops his offense, great
Yeah.
player he could be. But even what he just brings on defense, it's crazy. And taking him out, that's going to cost them a few games alone right there.
Oh yeah.
And of course, I thought James Ennis was going to start for them. You can
Mhm.
argue Terrence Ross, but
Yep.
Steve Clifford likes defense, so I think James
Yeah.
Ennis is going to start over him. And
Mhm.
Terrence Ross has always been kind of that six-man guy as a spark plug
Yeah.
off the
Yeah.
bench. That's also why I have him there.
I mean, they could also throw Chuma Keke in there. I mean, I don't know really what he brings to the table because nobody really saw him last year because
Yeah.
he was rehabbing.
I looked at him a bit after we talked about him in
Mhm.
our East video. He's stretch four who can put the ball on the floor a little bit, not
Yeah.
much though.
Which I mean, we don't know exactly how he'll play against NBA talent.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think the Magic have some experimenting to do. I hope Markel Fultz takes like another step.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I mean, I think this team really should, try and move on from
They might have to blow
Aaron
it up.
Gordon. Now, I wouldn't say blow it up, but just try and like free up some space for a couple of these younger guys and just see what's working. I'm not saying like trade Vooch, trade Fournier, trade Aaron Gordon, trade anybody with value, basically. But just like maybe move on from Aaron Gordon because I don't think he's a great fit on a team if you're really trying to win a championship.
That's fair. It's a real question mark for them. They're not making the playoffs at all this year. I don't think. I don't think they have a chance to make play-in really.
No.
And I'm excited to see Cole Anthony play. See what he can do. Mo Bamba. Let's see what he can do this year because I think it's kind of a deciding year for him to see if he can really be a good NBA player. Which I hope he does well because he looks okay sometimes, and then other times he just looks lost on the court. It's such a weird paradox for him.
And that was the assumption when he was drafted, is that he was going to be a project player.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it seems like when you have project guys, there's usually like a 3-year window, and it's like that third year is really the deciding year, whether they're going to be a good player or not. Because, once you get to that third year, I mean, you basically have to make your choice on whether to sign them after the fourth year already. So I don't know. I don't think the Magic have a chance to make the playoffs. We currently have them as the 12th seed. Mm-hmm. So I think that's pretty accurate for this Magic team. So next we have the Washington Wizards. And I think this is probably going to be one of the more exciting teams this year. Yeah. Just because, I mean, Russell Westbrook, he's Russell Westbrook. Yeah, he's a very polarizing player. And for the people that like him, they really like him.
Yeah. And, I mean, the thing with Westbrook is he can lead a team to the playoffs by himself. Mm-hmm. I truly think that. Maybe not so much anymore because he's a little past his prime now. He's 32, if I'm remembering correctly.
Somewhere around that.
Yeah. But with an all-star like Bradley Beal on his team, I think that's a playoff team right there. And I've made this comparison. I think they're going to be like the Mavericks this past year where their offense is going to be really good, but their defense is going to be atrocious again.
Yeah.
Because they haven't made a lot of moves to get better defensively at all.
I mean, just looking down this list, just for the 11 guys that we're showing here, not even their full roster, Robin Lopez is their best defender, which is not saying a whole lot. I mean, yeah, he's a good rim protector.
He's a good defender.
But, I mean, if he's your best defender, you got some problems.
Yeah, especially since he's going to be playing limited minutes for
you. Well, that, and then you look at all the big men on this team. Davis Bertans, I mean, yeah, he's kind of a 3-4, but front court player. Thomas Bryant, Rui Hachimura, Mo Wagner, and then Robin Lopez. And maybe Denny plays a little 3 and 4.
Denny can play 4, yeah.
Yeah. And then same thing with Isaac Bonga playing the 3. I mean, just all those front court players, nobody plays good defense.
I mean, Thomas Bryant's okay. He's probably the second best defender behind Robin Lopez. He's an okay defender, but
yeah, you can't have a good defense by having your second best defender being okay.
Exactly, because it's like you have Robin Lopez, Thomas Bryant, and Ish Smith as your best defenders on your team.
Yeah,
it just doesn't work. It's just they went, all right, let's have our offense be amazing.
Yeah.
That's what they're going for. And that's fun to watch.
And, well, the reason why we do have them improving is obviously because of Russell Westbrook. I mean, just adding him in from the team that they had last year is obviously a big improvement. But even though we're joking about how they're not great defenders, having a guy with his energy can get guys locked in, at least put in effort, which is at least something.
It's true.
So, I mean, we have them as the 8th seed, which will have them in the play-in game against Atlanta. And I don't know who wins that game. I think it really comes down to just who's healthy and if one of these players gets hot. We'll just cut it there. Because I thought you were And next we have the Chicago Bulls, who, I mean, we talked about them a minute ago when we were talking about Charlotte. We have them having the same record as Charlotte, but not having the tiebreaker. And I mean, personally, when you look at these teams on paper, I might say that Chicago has the better team, but I don't know exactly how they're gonna do, how much better they're gonna do from last year. Because granted, last year they were atrocious. Like nobody wanted to play for Boylan. And so I think that was a big problem with their roster, and I mean that obviously reflected in their win loss column. So going forward, how good is this team really? Like I said, on paper, I might say that they have a better team, but you don't play games on paper.
Yeah. One thing Jim Boylan did well, and I can't believe I'm giving Jim Boylan credit for anything, but defense. They were a top
Yeah.
5 defense under him. Mm-hmm. And now they're not going to beat that. There's no way they're going to be that good of a defensive team without him. And obviously, we talked about this guy earlier, Chris Dunn. He's no longer with the Bulls, like we said. He's a great defender. I'm not going to talk more about it. We beat that to death. He's an amazing defender. This team's defense, Wendell Carter has potential to be a good defender, but he fouls so much that he can't play for long stretches of time just because he's in foul trouble a lot. Otto Porter, when he's healthy, because last year he played 22 games, I think it was.
Yeah,
he's a good defender too. Zach LaVine, not the great defender.
No, but the thing about Zach LaVine, and I say this about a lot of guys, is well, he has the athleticism to at least be okay. All he has to do is put in the effort, and then he can be okay.
Right. Yeah, and Kobe White, not really a great defender either. Lauri Markkanen, not a good defender at all. No. Obviously, off the bench here we have these guys. Daniel Gafford's okay defensively.
Yeah. The person I'm excited for, at least on defense, is Patrick Williams. Right. They picked him. Obviously, they really wanted him because they moved up to pick him. Well, they didn't move up. They picked him
at 4 when he moved his draft stock up.
Yeah.
Because he was projected around 10, I think it was. And of course, I had heard reports, and a lot of people did, that he was moving up a lot of people's lists, and they were like, dang, this guy looks like he could be really good. But they have to have a lot of confidence to take him at 4 and not trade down and get some other assets and then draft him at like even 7 or 8 or something like that.
Well, I also feel like nobody wanted to move in this draft, really. But I am excited to see what he'll do this year. But overall, I mean, I do like Zach LaVine. I like Kobe White. I like Lauri Markkanen. I mean, these are good players. Like, I like Otto Porter, too. Like, I like a lot of guys on the roster, really. But, like I said, their fit on the court is really what I'm concerned about, and that's why we don't have them making the playoffs. Maybe their record is less than what we're saying it is, but I still suspect them to be somewhere around, like, the 11th seed in the East. Mm-hmm. And I hope that, in the next couple of years, they can really find...
they need more of an identity than anything, I think.
An identity. But overall, I mean, better than last year, and that's good news for the Bulls. And next, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers, which, I mean, as you can tell with the record, they're still going to be towards the bottom of the Eastern Conference.
Yep, I mean, we have them 14th here, which is only one better than last year, which isn't saying a lot. They're still at the bottom. And the team, I talked about this before in our East video, but I don't know what they're doing with the team, because they have all these young guys that they're trying to build for the future, but then they have all-star caliber guys on their roster still, and with some kind of unmovable contracts. Though I don't like that word, because I feel like any player is movable for the right price.
Yeah.
And it's just a really weird paradox, because I think the best kind of player with the most potential on this team is Isaac Okoro, in my opinion. I've been really high on him. Other than him, though, I think Kevin Porter Jr. has a lot of potential, and people don't really talk about him a lot.
Well, I'm not so big on Kevin Porter Jr. anymore, especially because, he just got arrested and whatnot. And sometimes that does mess with the player's on-court performance. I mean, I'm sure that some people remember out there KCP playing basketball basically with an ankle monitor on. Obviously, he's fine now, but that didn't happen when he was 20 years old. If I had to pick a guy with the most potential, I'd probably say Colin Sexton, just because, I mean, I think he can be a really good scorer. Obviously, his defense isn't quite there. You said all stars on this roster, like plural, and I would disagree with that because I don't think Kevin Love will ever be an all star again. I don't think Andre Drummond will be an all star again.
That's fair.
I don't see anybody else on this roster with the talent right now to make an all-star team.
Yeah,
maybe in the
fair.
future, Okoro or Sexton, Garland, or Porter Jr. Just not in the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's just they have 2 former all-stars on their team.
Yeah.
Kind of a little past their prime players.
Yeah.
Well, I guess not Andre Drummond, but it's just Drummond isn't the biggest all-star out of the all-stars, I guess is the best way I can put it.
Well, that, and I wonder, I mean, as a Pistons fan, I wonder how locked in he's going to be this year, because I can tell you there's a stark contrast between a locked-in Andre Drummond and just one who just goes out there.
Right.
And just does whatever.
Yeah, it's obviously his contract year, like we were talking about earlier, and so he might be locked in simply because he wants to get paid.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's that big a market for Andre Drummond, because I look at a guy like Rudy Gobert, who is, I don't even want to call them similar players, because I think Rudy Gobert's leagues above Andre Drummond.
Yeah.
And people are still questioning if Rudy Gobert should get a Supermax.
Yeah. The biggest thing for me that I've known over the years about him is that if he's going to be on a championship team, he's the 4th or 5th best guy. And I think sometimes in his mind, he is like the number 1 or maybe number 2, but that's just not him. But like I said, I wonder how locked in he's going to be because it's a contract year. If he has a good year, I wouldn't doubt that somebody out there pays him. Next, we have the Detroit Pistons, and I'm not happy about the record that we gave them because they are last in the Eastern Conference, but I hope that means that they get a top pick because
Cade Cunningham looks
Cunningham,
really good.
I can't even say his name. Cade Cunningham coming up in this draft, he looks amazing.
Yeah, I kind of like the trend we're seeing of big guards, because he's 6'8". You have LaMelo Ball, who's 6'7". Ben Simmons is obviously 6'10".
Yeah,
it's kind of becoming a trend now that we're getting really big guards in the league, which is really cool.
You look at the way, like the past 20 years, all the guys that people called unicorns and whatnot, that's become more regular because you get guys with different body types. They're taller, but they want to play like a guard. So they'll practice that stuff. And, if you're like Giannis size, you play like a guard, like Giannis does a little bit, that's really hard to defend. So guys that are unicorns like that are really special.
Definitely. And one thing I don't like about the Pistons roster is I feel like they're holding on to Derrick Rose and Blake Griffin because they're names and they want to sell tickets.
Well, there's not going to be fans this year.
That's true, but I still feel like for the limited amount of fans that are going to games, that are allowed in games, is that they're just names so that people will watch the Pistons.
Well, for me, and I've been really big on this for rebuilding teams, is you need good veteran guys in there to teach the young guys. Derrick Rose obviously knows his way around the league. He's a former MVP. He's been with multiple teams in the past. Hell, he almost saw himself out of the league before balling out in Minnesota. So he has a plethora of experiences. And if I'm a young guy like Killian Hayes coming into the league, Derrick Rose is a guy that I would listen to every single word he says.
Yeah, that's true. It's nice having those vet guys, but I feel like you don't need these kind of vet guys. You can get someone even lesser than this, because you can get some value for Derrick Rose at least. I really think that.
Well, I expect the Pistons will try and trade him, get like a pick or some young players, whatever. But it's not like you can really pick and choose the guys. Like they signed Derrick Rose last year trying to be a playoff team, and obviously they had some injuries, and then the team also just wasn't a great team. And Blake Griffin was a move made by kind of Stan Van Gundy and the owner because they wanted to get a star.
Yep.
But they're stuck with him now, so they're just running with the guys that they got. Now, some of the signings that they made, I'm not too sure about, but I just hope that the younger guys will continue to develop and whatnot. I mean, we have our starters here. I don't know if Derrick Rose will even start because I think he works better in the six-man role. Just let Killian Hayes start, but Derrick Rose plays more minutes. I think we don't have him on the list here, but I think Isaiah Stewart, yeah.
Yeah.
I think he could see some minutes somewhere in there. I think the Pistons will go pretty deep this year.
Yeah, they're just kind of, trying to find things that work for this team for the future. I mean, obviously, LiAngelo Ball also on the team. Let's not forget that.
Oh, it's just a camp tryout contract.
Still, he's there.
Yeah. Next, we have the Indiana Pacers, who, I mean, people sleep on this team a lot. You look down this roster and they're like, wow, this is a solid team. It's like, well, yeah, they had a good record last year.
Yeah, and that was without Victor Oladipo for a lot of the year.
And even when they had him, he didn't play very well.
No, he did not.
I'm kind of expecting he'll have a bounce back year. Granted, we do have them as a lower seed this year. And I think we just feel like that's because teams around them got better.
Right, and they kind of remain the same.
For the most part. I mean, they lost like Alize Johnson.
Yeah.
That's just not a whole lot.
That's about it. And Jeremy Lamb should be back at the beginning of the year. Their GM was saying they're hoping he's going to be available for the start of the season or even just a few weeks into the season.
Yeah.
And he's a very quality player to have on your team. Obviously, Victor Oladipo, we're hoping to bounce back here. Domantas Sabonis is an all-star caliber player. We've seen that before from him.
What I really want to wonder is how is the chemistry of this team going to be? Because we all heard the reports about Victor Oladipo wanting out. We heard the report about a trade that almost happened between the Celtics and Pacers for Miles Turner, but the Celtics wanted some more players or like another starter or something. You have to wonder how Miles Turner feels about that, or how some of the other guys on the roster feel like, wow, are we about to be traded or what? You have to wonder how that affects the chemistry.
Yeah, it's true. The team as a whole is really talented. It's just how they all fit together.
Yeah.
Because they're all obviously starting caliber players or above, but their fit together is kind of questionable at times because Victor Oladipo isn't the best shooter out there.
No, but
nor is Sabonis.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of a problem there. Turner can stretch the floor a bit. But obviously, you're having him out there more for defense because Sabonis isn't the best defender.
Yeah. The thing about Sabonis is I don't know why he's such a bad three-point shooter. I see him regularly whenever I watch Pacers games knock down like 18-footers.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like Kevin Garnett back in the day. Granted, I'm not saying Sabonis is Kevin Garnett, but like you can just hit those long jumpers, and you have to wonder if like I remember with Chris Bosh, it was like a mental thing. Like he just had to think like, oh yeah, just take one step back and it's a three.
Right.
So
exactly.
I wonder if Sabonis at some point, either this year or next year, will take that leap with shooting threes.
I hope he does. I mean, he could literally just go ask his dad to help him. I mean, his dad was a 7'2" guy, jacking threes in the league before that was even common for big men to do.
Yeah. And, I mean, it's not that we want Sabonis out on the perimeter. He's a fantastic post player. But, I mean, just adding a little space to the offense. And, I don't know. I still do like the Pacers. We do have them at the 7th seed. They are tied with the Raptors for the record, but we think that the Raptors will have the tiebreaker. So that'll put the Pacers into the play-in game, and they'll be playing Charlotte. And next we have the Milwaukee Bucks, which I don't think there's any surprise here. We have them as the number 1 seed in the East. They obviously improved their team, at least their starting lineup, and I think their team is better improved for the playoffs. Their bench is hurting a little bit, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
No, I don't. The bench is obviously what a lot of people are concerned about, but this isn't a bad bench unit, and you're not going to be playing your bench that long of stretches, I don't think, in Milwaukee. I mean, their bench, it's just decent, and that's all you can ask for when Giannis is off the floor is to keep your team treading water, I guess.
And I think this is something that Coach Bud will probably be really good at is staggering guys' minutes because I'm not 100% sure Drew Holiday, Dante DiVincenzo, Middleton, and Tenakumpo, those four will always be on the court together. I think Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton will see pretty much all the time together when Giannis is off the floor. Because I think when Giannis is on the floor, they could toss in DJ Augustine, Bryn Forbes, and maybe Torrey Craig just to get some shooters around him, or even have DiVincenzo out there. Like, there's a number of things that they could do to get some shooters with him. Granted, Holiday and Middleton are shooters, but like half the time when Giannis is out there, maybe you have those other guys in, and then when Giannis is off the court and half of Giannis's time on the court, you have Holiday and Middleton. So staggering guys' minutes a little bit will help kind of hide their bench from being so bad. And they got to play bigger minutes in the playoffs too.
Yep.
That's the only step that this team needs to take.
Yep. I mean, one of their biggest problems was Eric Bledsoe underperforming in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Well, he's gone. Yep. You brought in Drew Holiday.
Yeah.
Who, in the few times we've seen him in the playoffs in the past with like the Pelicans, he did really well.
Oh, yeah.
Like, remember that series against Damian Lillard?
Was it 2017 or 2018?
I think it was 18. And they threw that defense at Lillard that he said he had never seen before.
Yeah.
And they bounced them in the first round, and everyone was shocked.
Yeah.
Shocked that they did that.
I mean, granted, that wasn't just Holiday. That was also Rondo and Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins. But Drew Holiday was definitely a big part of that. And when it comes to in the playoffs, you need that defense. And Drew Holiday, I mean, I think this, and I know a lot of people think this, that he was robbed of being on all defense.
100%. He deserved it. They just need to make an all-defensive third team, honestly. I don't know why they don't have that when they have 3 all-NBA teams. Why not have 3 all-defense teams? It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I mean, I'm not 100% sure about this, but I think making an all-defensive team is one of the clauses in having a max contract. Like, so I'm not 100% sure about that. Don't quote me on that, but that could be the reason. But overall, I mean, the Bucks are fantastic. They're still going to be the 1 seed. Next, we have the Boston Celtics, which I believe they were the 3 seed last year. I don't remember the exact placement, but I mean, as you can see, they had a 48-24 record, and I think we were debilitating about it, or deliberating about it, about whether they'll be better or worse than next year. Ultimately, we decided that they would be a little better. Kemba Walker, he might be hurt to start the year, but we do have him in the starting lineup here. But adding Tristan Thompson and Jeff Teague, and hopefully their young guys take a little bit of a jump, I think they can be better next year.
Yeah, the team is it's really good. Of course, they're always a good team, but it's Kemba Walker really underperformed in that playoff series against the Heat. He got outplayed by Tyler Hero, who was a rookie. Let's not forget that. And it's just you're asking a lot from such young guys like Tatum and Brown to carry a team, and I mean it's still going to be a lot on them. But you brought in a lot of nice like vet pieces to help them, like Tristan Thompson. He's a nice rim protector.
That's championship experience there, too.
Nice rim protector. Cleans boards really well. And he's an improvement over Tice, who was a good player, but he's an undersized center.
Well, Tristan Thompson is a little undersized, too. I think they kind of complement each other a little bit. Like, you can either go with Tristan Thompson or Daniel Tice. Like, if you want somebody grabbing offensive boards, I'd go with Thompson. But I think Daniel Tice is better positionally, defensively. So, I mean, you kind of just pick and choose, and I have no doubt in my mind Brad Stevens will know exactly what to do.
Yeah, it's kind of like the big man rotation that the Raptors were running with Gasol and Serge, where they can kind of just interchange them and it works.
Yeah. Granted, these guys are not Marc Gasol and Serge.
No, they are not. They're not as talented as those two players, but they're still good. Obviously, Jeff Teague is a backup. He's a really good backup in the NBA now. Aaron Naismith, I'm really high on him too. I think he could be a really great 3-and-D player on a team, and that's a good player to have for a Celtics team like this.
Oh, yeah. Next, we got the Brooklyn Nets, which I think this might be the team that people are either like, yeah, they're going to be really good, or just like, they're probably going to be the same as last year, like record-wise.
Mm-hmm. I think people, it's Kevin Durant that people are really waiting to see. Of course, he's Kevin Durant. We want to see what he looks like after this injury, but it depends on what he's going to look like. Kyrie needs to stay healthy too, because he did not play a lot of games last year. We can't forget that. He barely played at all last year.
I kind of wonder, well, I think he could have played in the bubble. I do think that. I think he chose not to because he really wanted to be healthy and ready to go for this next season. And with the record that you see there, I mean, we have them as the 2 seed. That's kind of a bold prediction.
That's pretty bold. Yeah, it is. But it's just if Kyrie and KD can, get up to what we know they're capable of and stand up to that level, they're an easy 2 seed, I think.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Especially with this surrounding core. This is a really nice surrounding core to have.
Even if Kevin Durant is only 80% of what he once was, they're still, they're fighting for Boston. I don't know if KD's only 80% of what he once was, if they're better than the Bucks. That really depends on how these other guys play around them. But, not only do they have, essentially 2 star players, they also have a very deep bench. Like, you go down the roster, they got shooters, they got defenders. They got Jeff Green, who can go off some nights. So
yeah, one of the streakiest players ever.
Yeah.
Joe Harris, lethal 3-point shooter. Karis LeVert he's a really good on-ball scorer, which kind of conflicts with Kyrie and KD. Which is why they might trade him. Might be part of a James Harden package. Don't know about that. That's a whole different thing. I'm not going to get into that. Landry Shamet, great shooter to have on your team with players like this who can just run off screens like JJ Redick all day. Great player to have. I know you talk about him a lot. Bruce Brown Jr., really good defender as well.
Yeah. And obviously from their starting lineup last year, I believe they had Taurean Prince starting. I don't think it was the whole time. But we put Kevin Durant in at power forward because there was, I don't want to say a report or a story or whatever that came out that said KD will see some time at the 4 and maybe even the 5.
Yeah, I think it was Steve Nash said that or something.
Yeah. So if KD sees some time at the 5, which would be very interesting. I think he could do it from a rim protection standpoint, but if you get somebody posting him up, it's
and I don't know if I want to see him doing that, banging down low with Beggs after an Achilles injury. That's a little scary. And also, we have Jarrett Allen starting over DeAndre Jordan, but obviously they were starting DJ
at
most
the start
of the year
season,
because he's really good friends with Kyrie and KD, and they don't want to make Kyrie and KD mad. That's something they don't want to do.
Yeah, just looking at between Jarrett Allen and DeAndre Jordan, Jarrett Allen is clearly the better player. So personally, I'd rather have him starting.
Definitely, me too. But we have to remember that on paper he's better. It's just, DeAndre Jordan has better connections, I guess, on the team.
Yeah.
So I want Jarrett Allen to start because I like him a lot more than Jordan at this point in their careers. But
overall, we both like this team.
Oh yeah, they're a really good team, and we didn't even mention Spencer Dinwiddie, who was a great player to have too, is a backup point guard. That guy's gonna be really good.
Yeah. Next, we got the New York Knicks, which, this team, they're not much better. They're really not. We have them as tied with the Cavs. Technically, they're tied for the 13th seed, but 13th, 14th seed, we don't know exactly what their record is. But they didn't really improve as a team. I do like the addition of Alec Burks and Austin Rivers. I think they're solid players. Drafting Obi Toppin was a solid pick. New York guy, I think that goes kind of far.
I just got to say this. I hate how Knick fans treat their draft picks every year.
Yeah.
Because I remember after Toppin got drafted, and I saw a tweet. I can't remember who the person was. I don't even know if it was celebrity status, whatever. But they were like, we just drafted a 4-year college player who's just going to be a dunk contest participant. And dude, leave him alone. Like,
yeah.
he's from New York. He wants to play for you. Not a lot of players want to do that. Like, see
Yeah.
what he can do first before you jump on it.
One big question mark for this team is, well, clearly they do have a direction. They're rebuilding. I don't really know what their rotations are. We kind of went back and forth about their starting lineup, and eventually we decided to put Peyton, Burks, and Barrett as the I guess 3 guards. I wouldn't really call Barrett a forward.
No, he's more of just a 2 guard, really.
Yeah.
He's a 2 who can play 3 because he has the height too.
Mhm.
Because he's like 6'8", I think.
But looking down this roster, I mean, Reggie Bullock, he's played some small forward in the past. I don't know if Obi Toppin really can. I don't know if he's mobile enough for that.
I don't think he really is. He's definitely a 4 who can play a little 5.
And we don't have this on the screen, but Iggy Brasdikis, I know he plays the 3. He plays the 4 a little bit too, but their front court is a little crowded.
Yeah, and that, I mean, it's been that way for a few years now, and I think they need to kind of clear it out a little bit because
Yeah.
you want your young guys playing more because Toppin, obviously, he's your draft pick this year. You want to see what he's capable of. Kevin Knox should get some more playing time, I think, because he kind of deserves it just
Yeah.
to see what he can do because this is his 3rd year in the league now, and, like we were talking about with Bamba.
I think it might be his 4th year in the league.
Is it his 4th? I thought he was.
I'm not 100% sure, but I mean, he's kind of struggled thus far. I mean, he had a decent rookie year and then hasn't improved off of it, at least on paper.
And his efficiency is subpar too.
Yeah. But overall, I think this team should go really deep with its roster. Like we don't have enough room to list everybody on screen for everybody that they should be playing, just because they have a lot of guys that should get minutes. Like Dennis Smith Jr. should maybe get a few minutes. Who knows? I mean, Iggy Brasdikis, Kevin Knox. Yeah, they just got a bunch of guys. But, I mean, the Knicks aren't very good. There's no surprise there. Next, we got the Philadelphia 76ers, which I think this is the team that kind of shook things up the most with their roster.
I mean, Daryl Morey, of course, is going to do that.
I don't want to say they massively improved, but they got different personnel and better shooters.
Yep, and that's what you want around Simmons and Embiid because those 2 are great players who just don't work that well together because the spacing isn't there. And obviously you bring in someone like Seth Curry, statistically the best shooter percentage-wise of all time.
Yeah.
Danny Green, great 3-and-D player to have, kind of replaces Josh Richardson. Granted, Josh Richardson now in their careers is a better player than Danny Green.
Yeah.
But Danny Green is a 2-time champion back-to-back. Let's not forget that. He's quality. You bring in someone like Dwight Howard, decent player to have off the bench in his career now. Same with Tony Bradley. I mean, he filled in pretty well for Gobert when Gobert was down with the injury.
I like Tony Bradley as a player. He's not bad defensively. I mean, he can shoot a little bit as well, which is nice. Dwight Howard, veteran presence, now a champion.
Yep, definitely. Matisse Thybulle, the disruptor, great defensive guy to have out there too. Can shoot a bit as well.
Yeah, and we've said this about a few teams, but I think this starting lineup can have a lot of variability in there. Add Danny Green in there. Add Furkan Korkmaz.
Matisse Thybulle can play 3.
Yeah. I mean, you can add so many guys. So, I mean, we do have them as the 5th seed. I'm not completely set on that, though. I feel like depending on how this roster fits, we could see them higher or we could see them lower.
Yep, it's all going to depend on how they gel together on the court.
Yeah. And finally, we have the Toronto Raptors, which I guess this year, or we can call them the Tampa Bay Raptors. I mean, they'll be playing in Tampa, which it'll be interesting to see how these guys adjust to it, because granted, there won't be too many fans at stadiums and whatnot, but just playing in a different country. I mean, it's a couple thousand miles away from Toronto. You wonder how that'll affect them. I mean, we have them as the 6th seed, which granted, it's worse than last year, but I think that is more from the holes on their roster than location. Because just looking at their starting lineup, there's one big red flag to me, and that's Aaron Baines. I like Aaron Baines as a player. I just
yeah.
At this point, he shouldn't be a start. He should not be your starting center.
No, he shouldn't. Because if you think Aaron Baines is your starter, so we look at the bench. Who's your bench big? That's Alex Len, and that's
Well, him and Chris Boucher. I seriously think Boucher will get more minutes than Len.
probably.
That's why I put him up higher on the bench. But I mean, we don't organize those by minutes anyway. But I don't know what Nick Nurse is really going to do with this bench unit because, I mean, I like Terrence Davis. I like Norman Powell, DeAndre Bembry. They just got him this in free agency. There's three-time champion Patrick McCaw. I mean, he's solid. They still have Stanley Johnson.
Yep, and Norman Powell was doing really well toward the end of the year, and in the bubble, he was averaging like 20 points. I think it was over some X amount of games.
Which, if they want to go small, I mean, they can put Siakam at center, OG at the 4, and Powell at the 3.
Yeah, they could do that because OG, he was running center even in the playoffs, which is crazy to think, and it's...
Well, yeah, technically OG at center, not Pascal. But yeah.
So the team as a whole, it's still going to be a really good team. It's just you lose Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka. Those are two very talented players to be losing from your team.
I mean, without even looking at the other things they do, like Serge's shooting and Marc Gasol's playmaking and whatever, just not having that defense and that leadership that they both bring. I mean, that really hurts the team. I still have, like I said, I still have them playing, making the playoffs. They'll be tied with the Pacers in record, but they'll hold the tiebreaker, so they won't have to go to the play-in games. But they still have a good roster. I really do think. I mean,
and Nick Nurse, of course, best coach in the league. I think the front office knows what they're doing, and who knows, they could find some guy at a local store to bring in to play some center for them if they need to. I'm sure they could do that.
Like, I don't know if they still have Juan Hernandez on the roster. They might have waived him. I'm not too sure. I don't remember, but like, I know he got a couple minutes last year.
Right.
Not listed on our bench is Matt Thomas, Mr. 99%. Like, he's a great shooter.
Yeah.
And I think within the next couple of years, more people will know his name. Because I know Raptors fans, they know who he is.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a great video about Matt Thomas on YouTube. Just go look it up about how the dude is one of the craziest shooters probably ever. It's just you don't hear about him because he doesn't play a lot.
But when he does play, I mean, he's lights out.
Oh yeah, he can fill a role like a Shamet and Redick and just run around the floor a lot. Duncan Robinson types, guys like that, just run around the floor.
Well, I saw a couple highlights from the Raptors preseason game, and I mean, there were, I think, 2 times where it was like the same type of like Duncan Robinson play, just catch the ball and shoot, like almost immediate. He gets the ball off so fast, and it was just the shot was wet.
Yep, that's just Matt Thomas for you. He's a shooter. That's what he does, and he does it superbly well.
Yeah. And we want to thank you guys for watching. If you like hearing about the Eastern Conference and our predictions, drop a like and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. And let us know in the comments who you think is going to be the most surprising team in the East this year, record-wise. Who do you think is going to jump up? Who's going to fall down? Stuff like that.